We observe in today's world a phenomenon in which people, especially many young men, find themselves unable to leave the comfort zone they occupied in adolescence. Although biologically adults, they behave like eternal teenagers, for they don't find the strength or sufficient motivation to fully take on the burdens and challenges of maturity. In the works of Carl Jung and his disciple Marie-Louise von Franz, one finds the Latin term Puer Aeternus to describe precisely this type of person. Someone who, akin to the character Peter Pan, resists growing up and clings to an adolescent lifestyle. It is worth remembering that in ancient societies there were rites of passage that marked the transition to adulthood, and these rituals were often carried out by a group of older men who presented the hardships and responsibilities of the real world, while the mother, by her nurturing nature, was more tied to immediate care. Thus, upon leaving maternal protection, the young person underwent tough experiences that prepared him to face the world. The historian of religions Mircea Eliade studied these initiation rites and showed that without them, a person is left without a kind of symbolic map to confront adult life. This lack of formal transition structures, combined with the cultural and family transformations of the 20th century, may explain why so many are stuck in a limbo between childhood and a life of responsibilities. The father, traditionally the catalyst for the son's break from the privileges of home, is often absent, whether due to overwork, disinterest, emotional distance, or simple inability to establish a guiding bond. Scholars such as James Hollis and Sam Osheron have found significant rates of fathers who appear emotionally distant, forcing the mother to bear alone the weight of raising the child. In this context, she may unconsciously reinforce dependency, as she has to meet not only her son's demands but also the emotional need left by her partner's absence. This dynamic often culminates in what is called the devouring mother, who, without intending harm, envelops the young man in a suffocating attachment and keeps him in a prolonged childhood. A very common practical example of this situation occurs when a young man, already in his early 20s, continues to live at his parents' house without helping with expenses or even taking care of his own chores. He leaves it to his mother to do his laundry, prepare his meals, manage his finances, or even support him with health insurance, college tuition, and credit card bills. When asked about finding a job or a career, he replies that he is not ready or that the market is difficult, preferring to take refuge in endless hours of online games or internet content consumption. He even talks about someday moving out or one day starting his own business, but never actually takes the necessary steps to get there. Confronted with any adversity, he goes back to expecting his mother to intervene and solve it. Another case is the young man who, even though employed, hesitates to take on more serious commitments, such as moving out of his childhood room or paying bills related to housing. For him, the transition would involve facing unknown hardships and pains that go beyond the guaranteed comfort provided by his family. The fear of failing outside the home sounds stronger than the desire to experience the world independently. Thus, the father figure, who could encourage him to face risks and provide an example of resilience, is absent or does not carry out this role consistently, leaving a void that the mother, despite her best intentions, cannot fill. This situation becomes even more complicated when the overburdened mother unintentionally reinforces dependency so as not to also lose the emotional role she has assumed. To break this cycle, some scholars suggest that the young man seeks substitute mentors, teachers, coaches, therapists, or even more experienced friends, who can offer an external reference on how to live independently. It can also be helpful to engage in activities that require some level of challenge and discipline, such as a team sport or a study group, as these experiences serve as practical laboratories for learning to handle conflict, frustration, and autonomy. In parallel, understanding that growing up entails pain, frustration, and mistakes can help view difficulties as inevitable steps. The term Puer Aeternus does not refer merely to a laziness syndrome or an individual lack of will, but to a phenomenon rooted in complex psychological and social forces. When there's no clear break from maternal dependence, and when one cannot count on paternal guidance or presence, the result tends to be a fragile and unstable personality that prefers the refuge of instant pleasures to dealing with the costs, and also the rewards, of a fully realized adult life. Although this unsupported transition may be arduous, it is entirely possible to undertake. It is entirely possible to undertake it by seeking assistance through new support networks and expanding awareness of one's own fears and desires. Growing up requires the willingness to leave the comfort zone and walk an uncertain path, yet one filled with potential achievements. Understanding the dilemma of the Puer Aeternus is, ultimately, accepting that adulthood does not bring only burdens, but a chance to develop full autonomy and discover possibilities that, to someone trapped in childhood, hardly seem to exist. If this video was helpful and resonated with you, don't forget to leave a like and comment. This makes sense to me. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.